All right.
You're on the clock.
I'm on the clock. Man, they don't have a clock on the floor of the House. I think most of you know what I stand for. I actually thought I filled out the survey, but my record speaks for itself. Most of that stuff that's in that survey, I voted for, on what you support. I voted for the repeal of the prevailing wage because I think markets ought to determine prices. I was actually one of the first co-sponsors of a bill in my first 2 years down there to do something similar. And just in response to the recent comments, I'm a union member, and I'm for right to work. Because if a union does its job, they have nothing to fear from right to work. And that's all I'm going to say about right to work. The issues in this legislature the last 2 years, the elephant in the room has been the budget. It's been a huge problem. I actually said in our caucus the first week or two, I gave deference the first session we took control to the leadership because of the fact that we never really expected to take the Senate. We knew we would probably take the House. We never expected to take the Senate. So we really needed some time to go through the budget items with a fine-tooth comb. Second year, this recent session, in the first or second week of the session in caucus, I said if we don't get a budget to the governor within 10 days of the end of the session, we would pay for it because the governor would control the issue at that point in time. And of course, I said we would have a surprise before the end of the session. We got it on the third day of the extended session. And Craig's right. We had no control at that point. We couldn't extend ourselves, but he could, and he just chose not to, and chose not to call us back in. We would have had the votes on the House side, because you need 3/5 to call ourselves into special session, but I'm quite sure that the Senate didn't have the votes to call ourselves in. I had an amendment on the day that we passed that budget that would have cut us back to basically 2015 spending levels, or the governor's recommendation. It would have cut basically the amount that the tax increase was. And there's a lot of unintended consequences from this tax increase. We've already had 2 manufacturers of vape products leave the state. We've already had several others that won't send their product into the state because of the excise taxes. So we have retailers having a hard time getting the products. Whether you like it or not, the products are legal. And there's 1,000 jobs associated, just under 1,000 jobs associated with that industry. So creating tax increases of any type, or in this case, new taxes, they were already paying sales tax. There are there's 2 other businesses that have already left the state, just went across the state line. The one manufacturer that was in Princeton went to Roanoke, Virginia. So we have to look very carefully at what we do as far as our policy and taxes and the unintended consequences on people's behavior. That budget, in 2015, the actual number spent in West Virginia was $4,074 million. The budget we passed, the authorized spending is $4,187 million, an increase of $113 million in a state that has lost population. Our spending over the last 10 years has went up 24%. Part of that's due to inflation, a lot of it's not. If we don't decide to tackle that budget, it's going to be an anchor around our neck for years to come. So budget number 1, education number 2, that's a big priority. Problem with education is you need 3 particular things to have a successful outcome in education. You need a motivated student, you need a very good teacher, and you need an involved parent. Common Core destroys all 3 of those. A friend of mine, my wife used to teach with, and Ms. Frankmeyer used to teach with, Holly Branch stood up and spoke against Common Core, and she was on the statewide board. Because what happens, everybody's heard the stories of the new math. So you bring home, I got 1 minute, or I can finish it. You bring home in elementary school a new way of doing math to a lot of parents in this state, and they can't help their children, you frustrate the parent. You lose parental involvement. And what does that do? Kids sense the frustration of their parents. And it just goes to the teacher too. The biggest thing we need to do in education is get more money, and I actually was a sponsor of a bill to get the thought started, is to reduce the size of the bureaucracy in Charleston and send it back to the local classroom in the form of resources and higher wages for our teachers, and then we'll have a better outcome. And I'm not going to need the thing. Thank you.